I've been volunteering for the Pennsylvania Game Commission this spring to do marsh bird surveys. What this entails is using a speaker, which is this big black thing behind me, to play bird songs of particular marsh birds. And it's a certain playback schedule. So I do it 3 times at each wetland, spaced every 2 weeks. And I've been surveying about 7 different wetlands around Westmoreland County. Now, when I do a survey, again, I use a phone app that the Game Commission has prepared. And the phone app then communicates wirelessly to the Bluetooth speaker here. And each survey starts with about 10 minutes of silence, during which time I listen for particular marsh birds. Now, marsh birds would include some of our rail species, Virginia rail, black rail, and I don't know if you heard that, but that was a Virginia rail, and I wanted to show that to you today. So that's really awesome. There's also a bird called a sora, which I've detected here before. And then there's coots and pied-billed grebes and things like that. Well, anyway, 10 minutes of silence during which I'm listening for those particular species of birds. And then the playbacks happen. There's pre-recorded sections of bird song that each of these species sings. And so it goes through about a dozen different species of marsh bird, playing about 20 seconds of song, followed by, well, it's probably 30 seconds of song, followed by 30 seconds of silence, and then it moves on to the next species. So over the course of a 10-minute silence and then about 10 minutes of song playback, going through a whole different bunch of birds, I can survey a whole bunch of birds that are here in the marsh, or not. And actually, if I don't find any, that's good data too. It means that there aren't any birds, any marsh species here in the wetland. Now, today was the first day that I actually detected the Virginia rail. And we're going to try and call it out, and I'll show you what happens. Okay, did you see that? I wasn't able to play the playback from my phone and video record at the same time. But as soon as I did the playback, and then I heard the Virginia rail, I turned off the playback and I turned on my camera, and we got to see the Virginia rail, didn't we? Small little chicken-like bird, and not particularly shy, at least when you do the playback. I played something called a female grunt call, and that was probably the male, a little confused about what he was hearing and thinking, is there a female around, and is this the female that I've been hanging out with? So So actually, when we do playback calls, we only do it at certain times, and we try not to do it a lot because it can cause confusion and stress for the birds involved. Now I'm going to have you do something similar for a homework assignment. There is a bird app called Merlin, and you can search for particular species of birds and then find a song for you to play, and you'll just follow the instructions that I type out for you. But of course, I'm not going to have you do marsh birds because they are exceedingly rare. First of all, you got to find a wetland, and then it's really just good luck in order to detect them at all. So instead, I'm going to have you sort of do a playback for a more common species of bird, and you'll have some choices just to ensure that you've got some birds around you that you can work with. So this is a method. The playback method is used all the time in terms of scientists surveying wild areas to figure out what birds live here and what birds don't. The survey method really helps because a lot of birding is by ear. You look around and deep in that swamp behind me, I mean, there's a lot of vegetation, and you're not guaranteed to see a lot of birds, but you can definitely hear them, which is why we do the playback method as an experimental protocol. Now, why do the birds respond to vocal playback? Now, with the Virginia rail, I was talking about, well, it was hearing this female grunt call, and it was probably confused and looking for its female mate. But playbacks, particularly earlier in the spring, elicit a territorial response for those birds that are territorial. What happens is, when a bird wants to defend its territory, it's a lot easier just to get up to the top of a tree and proclaim that territory with bird song. And so when you do a playback experiment, the bird doesn't understand that we have technology that can reproduce a bird song. So it hears what it thinks is an intruder on its territory. And of course it's going to go investigate. Of course it's going to vocalize in response because it's thinking it's being challenged. This is called a simulated territorial intrusion, or STI, and it is a very common way of studying territorial behavior.